and those ladies who have taken refuge here, but she thinks much, and she tries to remember. Though that is another thing which times denies, or perhaps the unchanging pattern of this land and life denies. For Gillan is not of the blood of High Hallack. There was a ship. Always I can remember so much of the tossing of a ship on a sea where waves ran high, avid to feed upon the work of men's hands. A ship of Alazan, that much also I remember. But that I am of Alazan? No. There was a purpose in my being on that ship, and, small and young a girl-child as I then was, I feared that purpose. But he who brought me there was under a mast which the wind and wave brought down upon the deck, and then no other of his company knew why I was among them. That was during the time of raids, when the lords of High Hallack, fighting to free their homeland from the hounds of Alazan, swept down and struck a lightning blow at the port, through which came the invaders' lifeblood of supplies and men. And so was I also swept up with those supplies and taken to one of the mountain holds. The Lord Furlough, I believe, had some private knowledge or suspicion of my past, for he sent me under guard to his lady wife, with the command that I be well cared for. Thus I was a fosterling in that household for a space. But that also did not last, for Alazan rose in might, and the lords were driven back and back. In the depths of harsh and heavy winter we fled across the barren land and into the upper dales. At last we came to Norstead, but the Lady Frieza came only to die. And her lord lay with an arrow in his throat back in the passes, whatever he had suspected concerning me unsaid, so that I was again adrift in strange, if placid, waters. I need only to look into any mirror within these walls to know that I was not of the breed of Hallack, whereas their womenkind were fair of skin, but with a fine color to their faces, their hair as yellow as the small flowers bordering the garden walks in the spring, or brown as the wings of the sweet-singing birds in the stream gullies. I was of a flesh which browned under the sun, but held no color in cheek, and the hair I learned to plait tightly about my head was of a black as deep as a starless night. Also, I thought odd thoughts. But even before I came to Norstead, while still I played the part of fosterling, I had learned to keep such thoughts to myself, for they alarmed and dismayed those about me. There is a loneliness of spirit which is worse than loneliness of body. And in all Norstead during those years, I had found only two to whom I might turn for company of a kind. The Dame Alusan was past the span of middle life when I came. She, too, was apart from her companions of the order. Her life was in the gardens, and in the rooms wherein she worked with herbs, distilling, combining, making those powders and salves, those flasks of liquids which soothed, healed, pleasured mankind. Noted she was, so that fighting bands in the high hills would send men trained for swift traveling to beg her for those products of her knowledge and hands which would aid in the healing of sore wounds, or the fevers and rheums, which came of living in the open no matter what the season or weather. And when I was set adrift in Abbey Norstead, she looked upon me, keenly, as usually she looked only on some herb new come to her, for she was sent packets of strange things from time to time, by her ordering gifts. Then she took me into her service, and I found that at first all I needed, for it was learning of a demanding kind, and my mind was thirsty for occupation. For some years thereafter I was content. I was working in the garden, weeding beds, when I first knew that other one who was to trouble my balance of learning and labor. There was always a humming of bees, since bees and gardens needs must lie close together, each serving the other. But now there came another thread of sound, entering my ears, and then my mind. And I sat back on my heels to listen, because my memory stirred, yet I could not summon aught clearly to the surface of my mind. As if that humming were a cord to draw me. I arose and went through an arch into the inner garden, which was for pleasure only, a place with a fountain and a pool, and flowers according to the season. A chair had been placed there, half in sun, half in